good morning, everybody. I kind of never get tired of seeing that video of Cove and everything on the island. We have so much to offer. So I suppose just to kick off, just a very warm welcome to you all to our September Business Breakfast meeting, which is sponsored by the Port of Cork. I hope you all had a really good summer, enjoyed the fine weather. I think we're all trying to get back to work, get back to the faster pace than what we've been used to over the last year. So a lot of adjusting for all of us, I'm sure. So just regarding Cove and Harbour Chamber, we have had a busy time over the last, I suppose, year and a half during the pandemic. A lot of good news stories for Cove happening, and indeed the Lower Harbour. One of the main ones really over the last couple of days or week was the main drainage scheme that finally has now been finished. And as they say, the flows are on, which is great. It's kind of hard to believe that 10,000 wheelie bins of raw sewage was actually going into Cork Harbour from Cove alone. And to have that eliminated is just amazing. And that is a massive thank you to Cork County Council and Irish Water for bringing that really complex project to fruition. So we have a lot to be grateful for, that the fact that now we're going to have a better quality of water, which I think is really going to act as a platform to enhance our town, to encourage investment both economically and socially. Another project on the horizon is the new public realm, which hence the streetscape. This is going to enhance our already beautiful town. The whole ethos behind this project is to enjoy your space, enjoy your town. And it is an initiative brought to us by Cork County Council, used to revitalise towns and villages, i.e. our own town, and to encourage people to visit our town, live in our town, and invest in our town. Another very hot topic of conversation at the moment is the America's Cup, and rightly so. This is such an amazing opportunity for Cove, the harbour, the region, and indeed the whole country. For Ireland to have a chance to host the third biggest and most important sporting event in the world is just phenomenal. The numbers, the cost of investing is 150 million. The return is 500 million of hard benefits to our country. Jobs will be created. The tourist industry will be given an enormous boost, and you can imagine the spectators via TV. By hosting this event, much of the infrastructure that will be put in place will be long-term and will be a huge plus for our country. This is about business, a good news story for hospitality, hotels, tourism, and is a very attractive event. Our key selling point here in Cove is that we are a town on an island, 25 minutes from Cork City, and on the second biggest natural harbour in the world. So we have an awful lot to offer. Offshore wind, another project, is the economic opportunity for our generation and is the key focus for our future. All the ingredients are already here in Cork Harbour to become the unparalleled hub for floating wind energy. We here in Cove and Harbour will play a big part as a key stakeholder and a project we wholly support. Everything that I've mentioned here this morning offer keywords: connectivity, sustainability, employment, and education. So before I hand you over to Conor Moulds, I would like to commend the executive team, council members, the team in the office, sorry, just bear with me a second, members of the team in the office for the endless work. Cove and Harbour Chamber acts as a voice for the business community of Cove, and we work tirelessly to ensure that Cove is the best place to work, live and visit. We work very closely with our ministers, TDs, our local councillors, Cove Tourism, Cove Tidy Towns. By working together, we will get that job done so much faster. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Conor Moulds, Chief Commercial Officer of the Port of Cork, our sponsors who will introduce our speakers here this morning. I would like to say a special thank you to Bernard Lynch, who has stepped in at very short notice as Seamus Fives is in transit from Singapore currently. So over to you now, Conor.
Thank you, Joanna, much appreciated. And once again, the Port of Cork is honoured to have the opportunity to sponsor the Cove and Harbour Chamber series of breakfast meetings this year and indeed next year. We have two speakers today from Pfizer. Firstly, Bernard Lynch, followed by Dr. Claire Murphy, site lead. Bernard is currently Senior Director, Technical Transfers and Implementation with the Pfizer Small Molecule Operations team. For the last 3 years, he has been working on a global project for a new manufacturing facility to be based in Singapore, supporting the design and the operational startup planning requirements, including the product transfer and implementation plan. Bernard has over 20 years manufacturing and operations experience with Pfizer in Cork, and more recently with the Pfizer Global Network. Dr. Claire Murphy joined Pfizer in Ireland in 1999 and is currently the site leader. In the last 22 years, Claire has had roles of increasing responsibility, starting first as a production engineer and then moving into leadership roles in manufacturing operations, quality and supply chain, before taking over as plant leader in 2007. Claire is on the board of Cork Chamber of Commerce and IBEX Biopharma Chem Ireland. Importantly, originally from Cove, Claire is a chemist by profession, having completed a BSc, a PhD, and a postdoc in research in UCC, with a number of academic textbooks and papers published. Claire has 20 years plus engineering, operations, supply chain, and quality experience. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Bernard, who will give us a global view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Conor, for the warm introduction. And first of all, just to Cove and Harbour Chamber for the opportunity for us representing Pfizer to come to talk to you in what you will see over the next while, a very exciting time for us, as you can imagine. And what we will hopefully be able to do this morning is give you a flavour of our global operations to start with. And then Claire will talk to you a bit more locally about our operations here in Cork, which for quite a long period of time have been a very important part of fabric in not only in Cork, but in the harbour and in the country. So we'll just give you the global overview to start with, if that's okay. Please, if there's any questions, feel free to ask. So I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers that are up on this slide, but just Pfizer, just for those that may not be fully familiar with Pfizer, a global company, probably nearly 80,000 people actually working for Pfizer around the world. What do we do? In very simple terms, we will develop, we will commercialize and supply medicines to patients. That's what Pfizer does in very simple terms. And we do that across 125 different countries with a number of different products. And those products will vary from the simple tablets that you would take through to, if you had, unfortunately, to end up in hospital, you may get an intravenous medicine in hospital, through to what you're seeing over the last year and a bit, a vaccine. They're the types of products that we globally supply and distribute to our patients. Next slide, Claire. Thank you. So the unit or division that both Claire and I work within is Pfizer Global Supply. And basically what we do is we are the division and units that are responsible for taking the products from our colleagues in research, and we will manufacture and supply them on to our patients. So that organization has about 26,000 people globally. And you can see again some of the numbers here. We operate across what we call a manufacturing network of sites, which is about 42 different sites around the world. And it's also backed up by a whole host of external manufacturing partners as well. And that gives us the ability to be able to translate raw materials into the great products that we have and onwards ship them to our patients, which, as we say, we're touching and reaching possibly nearly every country in the globe, about over 125 countries globally. So probably in the last year, it's probably fair to say people will have become more familiar with Pfizer on the back of this pandemic that we're hopefully beginning to exit from. But what we said we would do is maybe just give one summary of the COVID-19 vaccine journey for you in what has been quite simply a monumental 18 months for us. In March last year with Pfizer, listening to this pandemic emerging and not having a product either in development or available, perhaps to be able to deal with it, through to 18 months later having a approved vaccine on the market, which is now shipping, probably by the end of the year, billions of doses globally to more than 120 countries. it is a remarkable probably achievement, and we're not biased because we're from Pfizer, but I think if you stand back and look at the partnership that both Pfizer and BioNTech, who are our partners in this, have come together to deliver something that's quite unique in our industry. And why we say it's unique is really about the time and the timelines that this has been done in. It's been obviously a very fast time where we're able to achieve the distribution of the vaccine. And really, there were a couple of enablers, I think, that probably have allowed us to do that, which is really the people and the organization culture that we have. You know, Pfizer have, for quite a while now, been really focused in trying to make sure we deliver medicines into patients' hands. That's really our aim and, as an organization. And this is a great example of that happening in real life. And it doesn't come about by chance. You know, it has come about with the use of different technologies, us partnering with regulators, and more importantly, probably our teams collectively across the globe, working in a completely different way, working in a way which removed some of the constraints and shackles that we would normally have. And just to give you an example, a typical program from vaccine development into delivering it into a patient's arms can typically be the order of 12 to 15 years. That's the legacy. That's what we would have seen historically. So to do this in 18 months is, as you can imagine, something that's uniquely different. And it is really important, though, that we make sure we don't compromise quality or safety of either the product and medicine that we put into people's arms or how we go about making and manufacturing that product. So nothing has been compromised on that front. And that is a really, really important point to understand, which makes it even more remarkable that all this has still been done in a really, really compliant manner. So I think, you know, in summary for COVID-19, it just reflects that, you know, we are driving towards becoming a much more agile and nimble company that can react to patients' needs a whole lot quicker. And I think that's the key thing that we have seen now in reality emerging. This is a bit of a very busy chart, and I'm not going to go through it in detail. You'll be glad to hear, but what it's just trying to show you is when I talk to you about our manufacturing network, at the end of the day, we research and find new products, new medicines. We will also manufacture those medicines and we will ship them to our patients. And that manufacturing network, of which Clare's site in Cork is part of, is about 42 sites. And from this global chart, you will see it spans right across the globe from North Americas right over to Australia, into Asia, and a big presence in Europe, and obviously a really strong legacy of Pfizer operations in Ireland. So a global footprint across the 42 sites. Just before we give you a bit more clarity and detail closer to our operation in Cork, of those 42 sites, they are made up of probably 5 different types of facilities. They are the facilities that Claire will talk about, which manufactures the bulk materials that we put into our products. There are the sites that manufacture tablets. There are the sites that manufacture sterile products, which are the products that you would get into your arm intravenously. There are the products in our biotechnology facilities, which can generate our vaccines. And there are packaging facilities that package all of our products into what, if you open a pack of a Pfizer product, they're the operations that will package all the medicines correctly for you. So the division, getting it down a bit closer to our operation in Cork, the part of the operation that we have in Cork is our active pharmaceutical ingredient network. So it's referred to in short terms as API, And this really is where we manufacture the bulk powder. So we don't tablet or make a tablet in these facilities, but these are the ingredients that we manufacture to go into the tablet. There are 6 sites within that smaller network. 3 of those are very, very specialized facilities that they'll just make one single product. The other sites are what we call multi-product sites. I think, Claire, the next slide there might cover some of that coming up. So this is just basically saying the same thing. 6 smaller sites in our API network across 4 countries, and about 1,800 colleagues and climbing, as Claire will show you coming up. This is the location of those sites that I was referring to, the 6 sites. You can see us based in Ireland, in Singapore, in the North Americas, and we have a specialty site in Canada as well. The key thing is that the sites in Ireland, in Ringaskiddy, and Singapore are what we call multi-product. So we make different types of products in those facilities. Claire will talk to you a bit more detail about that. And finally, just to wrap up this section for you in Pfizer in Ireland, and I think the next slide probably gives you, this is a busy slide, but gives you a very good picture of our operation in Ireland. You know, we have 4,000 colleagues working for Pfizer in Ireland across not just the manufacturing divisions that we have talked to you about, and we have 3 of those in Ireland, 3 manufacturing sites, Ringaskiddy, Newbridge, and in Grange Castle in Dublin. And we additionally have our commercial operations hub in Dublin, along with our global financial shared services centre in Ringsend as well, all coming together for about 4,000 people in the country, and a very proud legacy of operation in Ireland. Pfizer actually was the first foreign direct investment and multinational to set up base in Cork in 1969. So you can see a fantastic legacy over 50 years, and it's continuing to grow. And I'll close by just saying, you know, it's a very exciting time for us. You know, the vaccine, and rightly so, is what people talk about and relate to Pfizer with, but we have over 100 different projects in development at the moment. That's 100 more opportunities for new breakthrough drugs and medicines to be brought to people for the worst of the oncology treatments that are needed, right through to vaccine, right through to infectious disease. So it's a very exciting time. And in Ireland, we see growth coming from that. We're investing heavily in not only in Cork and Ringaskiddy, but equally, you know, we have announced a $40 million investment into Grange Castle recently, directly supporting vaccine development. And it's an important and interesting time for us as we grow the business further in Ireland for the next phase. So thank you very much for your time in this section. I'm going to hand over to Claire, who will now talk to you a bit about things more locally in Ringaskiddy.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bernard, and thank you to the Chamber for the invite this morning. So I stand in front of you as a very proud Cove lady, and I'm going to talk about the business here in Ringaskiddy over the course of the next 15 to 20 minutes. So just a brief introduction, and I know we've already gone through this, but I suppose the more personal side of it is I am married over the last 18 years, and I do have 2 daughters called Kira and Aoife. And like yourselves, who have family, have probably found it quite challenging over the last while with a pandemic, with kids at home, with homeschooling, etc., etc. But you know, I do actually, in some ways, believe the pandemic has brought my family closer together in the opportunities that we had to do more things as a family that I know for a fact we would not have done in any other time. So there's a little photograph there of us walking in the woods next to where we live, a woods I never knew even existed before the pandemic, and a woods that I've grown very familiar with over the course of the last 15 months. So just coming back to Pfizer in the Ringaskiddy site. So as Bernard indicated, what we do here is we actually export the bulk pharmaceuticals, so the actual powder, which is the active ingredient in Pfizer's medication. So Pfizer was one of the first US pharmaceutical businesses to locate in Ireland, and it set up its first production facility here in Ringaskiddy in 1969. And at that time, it set it up to produce food chemicals, including citric acid. And then in 1990, it decided to actually sell its citric acid business and get really serious about organic manufacturing synthesis of chemicals. So the site, what we do here is actually we're in the very fortunate position that all the new products that come through from research and development, we take them into site here and we manufacture them and we send them on for tableting, etc., so that we have that privileged role of being the site that launches all of Pfizer's small molecule medicines. And then we ship those products from Ringaskiddy to the other Pfizer plants who actually tablet them and package them before they head on to the patients. So this is an overview of the site, and unfortunately, Cove has been cut out there. The Cove town, I'm saying that we do have a lovely photograph of one of the ships in Cove, but to get in the majority of the site, I chose this photograph. So you can see it's a large site, maybe not well known that it's so large. So we're actually sitting on 80 acres, and we have these what you see as OSP. That's called an organic synthesis plant. We actually have 4 manufacturing plants on this site. We have 650 colleagues right now and still growing. And we produce 30 odd products for Pfizer on a yearly basis. We're actually an award-winning site, both internally in Pfizer and externally within the pharma community in Ireland. And our products end up in more than 150 countries worldwide. And with our products, we actually touch in a positive way more than 6 million patients every year. So just going back and having a look at the history of Pfizer in Ireland. So as I indicated, Pfizer was, as Bernard said, Pfizer was the first foreign direct investment, and they came and invested in Cork, in Ringaskiddy, with a citric acid manufacturing facility. And you can see the photograph at the top is Pfizer in the very early days when we were actually putting the first water tower together, and that water tower actually still exists today. I suppose moving on from that, we moved into organic synthesis. So that's the making of the powder that we spoke about. And we started that in 1972. And then I'm not going to go through all of the criteria, but over the course of 20 odd years, we opened more and more manufacturing facilities to cater for all of the products that were coming through from research and development. We saw a change in our business in 2007, and actually the product that were coming through from research and development dried up. So we had to actually decommission one of our facilities here, one of our large facilities, one of our large manufacturing facilities. And then we actually saw growth again, but in a different area, more niche area. So we ended up opening a Kilo Technology Lab in 2009. In 2014, we opened a new product technology lab where we took the building that we had decommissioned and we literally cleared it out, and we created a new manufacturing facility having different technology in that space. And we carry on today with further investment where we're extending one of our production facilities, and you can see it on the photograph there on the bottom. So very busy time for us at the moment, even all through the pandemic. We've been investing quite heavily. And as you can imagine, that has been very challenging on the basis that we have to adhere to COVID controls at all times. So just what are we doing in 2021? So as mentioned, we are manufacturing 30 different products, right? Oncology products being the ones that we're most proud of. We're also introducing 4 new products that came from research and development and that we're planning to launch over the course of the next 1 to 2 years. So that's new medicines that right now patients are out there waiting for, and they're coming through this facility. So very exciting for us. We're, as I said, progressing with a significant investment across the site. And, you know, we're also very fortunate that Pfizer made the decision to further invest here in Ringaskiddy, and they're putting in a new clinical manufacturing facility. So we are advancing our relationships and our connections with the research and development folk, and that just means that we are further up the food chain with regards to the medicines that come out of this facility. So a brief look at, this is the team here, this is my team, and coming from as far up as Derry, from Sligo, Galway, from Westmeath, Tipperary, and from Cork as well. So, and just looking at the statistics, I suppose, on site of the colleagues, we call the colleagues on site. So what we see is that we have approximately 79% of our colleagues are males and 21% are female. And the average age of our colleagues are approximately 44. And you can see there on the bottom, the educational levels. So, you know, very technically competent, highly qualified folk work on the site. So just talking a little bit about Pfizer, and Bernard had already alluded to it. So, you know, what's Pfizer all about, and what's the Pfizer purpose? So the purpose for Pfizer is breakthroughs that change patients' lives, meaning medicines that change patients' lives, new medicines. And then their ambition is to actually put 25 new medicines in patients' hands by the end of 2025. So, you know, how ambitious is that? But actually, you know, that's the intent, that's the ambition, and, you know, it is actually happening as I speak. And again, just to give a flavour of the markets where we send all of the products that we make here in Ringaskiddy. So you can see across Europe, America, Middle East, Asia, Australia, and Africa. So serving more than 150 countries worldwide. And I just want to hone in on, I suppose, our unique selling point here on site. So we are the only API facility, so the active pharmaceutical ingredient facility, that actually takes the new products from research and development. We take them in here and we actually make them. So we manufacture them, we commercialize them, and we pass them on to our sister plants who tablet them and package them before they end up in patients' hands. So that's, so, you know, we've a very important role. We're the only site within Pfizer in this space. And so it's a very privileged position to have, and one that we really covet, and you know, we're very proud of it. So, you know, I have in this picture just down the end, that's the amount of new product activity that we have on site right now. I've taken out the names of the product, but huge portfolio coming through. a lot of it around oncology or cancer, you know, and a lot of these products, I know right now patients are waiting for us to do what we need to do in order that we get it to them. So coming back out of, I suppose, what we do and just having a look at, you know, who we are. So we are an award-winning site, as I mentioned, both within Pfizer itself, where we get awards for our performance year after year, but also we're very active by putting our work forward within the pharma community in Ireland, and we have won lots of awards for green, for innovation, and we do that regularly every year. And while we're doing that, we're also, you know, not too far away from caring about our community at all times. And we take our corporate social responsibility very seriously. We partner with Irish Cancer, we partner with Junior Achievement, with St. Vincent de Paul, and with Cork Simon, where we partnered in 2019 for our 50th anniversary and made a significant difference to Cork Simon in Cork. And likewise, they made a significant difference to us by getting to know who they are and what they're about. So we're on a journey, and I just wanted to share this with the team. So we're on a journey to be the most diverse, equitable and inclusive organisation here on site. And we've started this journey over the course of the last 12 months, where we're lining up to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, of which there are 17. But in short terms, it's about us partnering with UCC, with the Disability Support Centre, us partnering with Field of Dreams to make a difference with them, Down Syndrome Cork, with DCU, Cork Pride, and also the 30% Club, which is all about growth through diversity. And we also take very seriously the promotion of science, technology, engineering and maths, so STEM, within our community. So we do a lot of work with primary and second level schools, and there's a whole program of work there that we do on a regular basis. Easier, as I said, before the pandemic, but continued through the pandemic, albeit it was virtual. We do a lot of work in third level space. We collaborate with the universities. We have PhD collaborations. We do site visits, career talks, student placements. We also are very heavily involved in women in science, technology, engineering and maths, and we've partnered with both UCC and MTU in that space. And also, I suppose, we partner on the strategy. How do we make sure that this effort continues beyond today? So we are partnering with SFI, IWish, IBEC, American Chamber, and other industries to ensure that the good work that we've done to date continues on into the next 5, 10, 15 years. And this is my final slide. And just a few facts and figures to land on. So, you know, I suppose our 650 colleagues make decisions every day based on, you know, the purpose around breakthroughs that change patients' lives. And we're all about what we can do to ensure that we get those 25 new medicines in patients' hands by 2025. And just the figures down below, you can see on the left-hand side, that's all about the site and what the site delivers. So we produce 300,000 kgs per year of product. We have 4 operating plants. We serve 130 countries, patients in 130 countries worldwide. But I suppose more importantly is on the right-hand side. And if you have a look at all the therapeutic areas for the products that we actually make here on site, you can see that we touch more than 6 million patients a year across all the different therapies, from cancer through to inflammatory disease, through to rare diseases. So that's pretty much my last slide. And I'd like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to talk about Pfizer, Ringaskiddy, and what we do here in Cork.
Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you so much, Bernard, for a really insightful into the workings of Pfizer. We're very lucky here in Cork Harbour to have you a part of the harbour, such a global industry. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to just go through a few questions now that have come in, if that's okay. And I'll just go to my phone now and I can ask them. So Bernard, question for you. As a company, what lessons have you learned over the last year?
That's a good question, Joanna. You know, because it has been heavily dominated by all things vaccine and COVID, you know, when we stand back and begin to look at some of the things that has emerged from that, there's a couple of things that stand out. What has been really successful, you know, in being able to deliver in that very short time period is, for want of a better word, the unshackling of our chemists and our scientists and our engineers to be able to get on to do the work that they need to do. And because Pfizer is such a big organization, traditionally, you know, there's controls, and it can be slow to get work approved, done, funded. All those constraints were taken away. And one thing that we would probably acknowledge for the senior executive leadership team within Pfizer, they set the stall out very clearly for teams to say, you don't need to worry about budgets. You don't need to worry about the typical constraints. We want you just to do your work. And I think what you're now beginning to see for us organization is that manifesting into, right, that was vaccine, but there's also a whole load of oncology projects in pipeline development. What can we do to accelerate those projects in a very similar way? Which is going to put pressure ultimately back on the likes of Claire and her organization and teams to be able to push that through the system quicker. However, it cannot be compromised in terms of safety or quality. So that's one learning in terms of it has been demonstrated that we can do things much quicker, much more agile. And, you know, the questions are emerging about, well, what else can we do? You know, what other treatments can we bring the same type of focus and energy and effort to get the same results? And that's something that we are going to see. And I think the other thing that we have learned is that despite us and a lot of us working and disconnecting remotely from sites, we would have historically been working on a location, that despite all of that, we were still able to achieve what we've achieved. And what we are now seeing is the use of digital technology coming to the fore to allow us to be able to essentially do your role and job in the same way that you would have by having a physical presence. And that will, I think, develop even further over the next period of time ahead, Joanna. So that's just an example of what we see. And, you know, to close, I would say, at the hub of all of this is the faith, and I suppose, in science, right? Because none of this would have been possible unless the science was solid behind what we were doing. And that's a very important piece as well, that once the science is right and there's a very solid foundation, which is what the BioNTech partnership brought to the vaccine development, that if that is solid basis and science, the results will come. And then it's about us getting out of our way to an extent in terms of the boundaries and constraints we put in place.
Okay, thank you, Bernard. That's great, very informative. So Claire, Pfizer's currently recruiting in Cork. I know you're a massive employer in the harbour here, and a lot of people, particularly in Cove, work in Pfizer's. So you might elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure, Joanna. So yes, it is the short answer. So even though people may not know it, we actually have a best-in-class graduate program. So we actually recruit on an ongoing basis every year in the areas of chemistry, engineering, data analytics. And we also take on, mechanical and electrical folk as well. But I suppose, as you've heard through the presentations, with all of the investment within the facilities, there is a plan in the coming year for further recruitment. So I'm delighted to be able to pitch this here at this forum, because obviously you know, for me, it's very important that we give back to the community around us. And so absolutely big recruitment drive in the next 6 to 12 months. So I do see our organisation here expanding in the next 1 to 2 years again. So outside of the graduate programme, yeah.
Right. And are you finding, is there challenges there at the moment for hiring?
So we've had to, because as we know, Ringaskiddy is full of pharma, and there was a time when we were all fishing from maybe the same pool. We've had to expand our pool and in line with the other pharma in the harbour. So actually we've gone wider. We've, you know, we have folk here from not just Ireland, from other countries as well, you know. So we have done that on the technical side. And we've been fortunate as well, while some organisations have been shrinking in this side of the harbour, we've been growing. But as we know, it's a very fickle business. So, you know, when we shrink, others may be growing. So there is sort of a cross purpose of people coming from maybe Novartis. They have joined Pfizer in recent years. Yeah, so the pool is there, and we're actively searching. Yeah, thanks, Joanne.
That's a good news story. So as question number 2, can you talk about well, this is directed to you, Claire. Can you talk about the investment within Pfizer Cork today?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I suppose, you know, people wouldn't know, but Pfizer has invested tens of millions every year in this facility alone. It makes sure that, you know, we have to maintain our facilities here, and we need to ensure that they're contemporary. So we get tens of millions from Pfizer every year to invest here. But as you saw maybe in some of the pictures in the last 2 years in particular, there's been further investment as we build out one of our manufacturing facilities here, because we're actually introducing a new way of making the products that we make. So there has been, you know, a huge activity in that space and huge investment as well, to be fair, from Pfizer. And outside of that, as I alluded to, we're also investing in a clinical manufacturing facility, which will also sit on the site. So all in all, I would say, you know, we've done very well within Cork with Pfizer's money over the last, I don't know how long, but definitely in the last number of years, it's only been going in one direction on the investment front. So very fortunate, and long may it last.
Great, good answer, Claire. Okay, final question to you again, Claire. No offence, Bernard, but they all seem to be coming in for Claire. So can you tell me more about, pardon?
She has all the good answers.
So Claire, can you tell me more about your partnerships with UCC, Disability, Field of Dreams, Cork Pride?
Yeah, so you know, something that I'm very proud of actually, and we've only started the journey in the last 12 months. But what we found, you asked me there about, you know, our recruitment and you know, how are we recruiting? But actually we found, you know, that there's lots of talent, except it's not in the pools we would normally have been searching. Okay, so what we did this year in particular is we partnered with UCC Disability Support Services, and lo and behold, we realized the amount of talent in that space it's extraordinary. And we had the opportunity to take 3 graduates on this summer, and what a difference they made to our business. It was phenomenal. So only one of the 3 ended up having the opportunity to work on site, but the other 2 worked remotely, and they actually made a difference to the teams that they were working with, but they also made a genuine difference to how we do our business, because they have the brain power. They had the data analytics sense that maybe some of us old fogies don't have, right? And so they were able to come in and look at stuff from a completely different perspective and actually make a real difference to how we do some of our work. So delighted with that partnership, and intend to do more of it going forward. With the Field of Dreams, actually, that's our chosen charity for 2021. And that means for the site that every opportunity we get, we raise funds. And all the funds that we raise, we actually pass on to Field of Dreams, which is a fantastic, I mean, they're a fantastic charity. Back in 2019, as I said, we partnered with the Cork Simon, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Bernard. Simon. And again, eye-opening, you know, the, I suppose, what we can do in that space, but I suppose enlightening what they can also bring to our organisation and the difference it makes. So that's the Field of Dreams piece. And the last one was Cork Pride. So I'm proud to say that this was the first year that we actually raised the Pride flag on site. So it took us 50 odd years to do it. But we did it this year, and it flew high beside the Pfizer flag, and that was you know a very I think gratifying moment for me in particular. We had a guy called Clive Davis from Cork Pride, and he provided training for us on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And his session was lighthearted, it was humorous, but it was really highly engaging. And so, you know, the reality, he spoke about the reality and some of the challenges that exist for LGBTQ folk. And what we wanted to do this year is we wanted to get an opportunity to support our colleagues and their families and friends. So we partnered with Cork Pride with their magazine, and then we actually passed that magazine out to more than 800 colleagues who work on site. So that's just a flavour of some of the work that we're doing outside of our core duty, which is to manufacture Pfizer products. Thanks,
it's amazing. Such an amazing story. It's great to see the inclusion there. Is just fantastic, and that's kind of where we're all.
It's a work. We're not there. I wouldn't say by a long shot, but we're definitely starting. Yeah, we're starting the journey, and we have a lot of intent to make it different and more inclusive for everybody, so that everybody can come and be themselves and do their best at work. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. So Claire, Bernard, thanks a million. It's been great, very insightful, as I said, and you're just such a huge asset to us in the harbour. You really are. In a way, it's an anchor for us, for all of us. So, and you've done Trojan work throughout the whole pandemic. So well done. So before we finish, if you don't mind, I kind of like to. Dick White is here from Focus Ireland, and they're running an event on which he'll give you a few details on it there on Friday the 15th of October. Sleep Out Night on Spike Island, which I've committed to do. So, which I would hopefully it'll be fine. But anyway, so out in the elements. So, Dick, would you mind just saying a few words maybe about the event?
Thank you, Joanna, and thanks for the opportunity and fabulous presentations, lads from Pfizer, and your community involvement. It's really excellent. It's a shining example of what can be done by manufacturing and by large industry. Look, from our own viewpoint, Focus Ireland is here in Cork since 2007. We have a national event called Shine a Light Night. It's the 15th of October. So it's coming along fairly soon. It's a night to build awareness in the business community, with business leaders and with corporates. And thankfully, we're able to say that we actually have a physical event happening down here in Cork, which is on Spike Island on the 15th of October. And we're encouraging businesses to sign up to participate in Shine a Light Night for Focus Ireland to help us deliver our strategy on homelessness, both in Cork, in Munster and nationally. So the opportunity is there for all businesses to register, sign up and come out to sleep for one night on Spike. There's not too many chances that you'll get to be on Spike other than if you were in prison. So look, it's a chance there, and we will be making a huge difference, and you will make a huge difference. So we'd love everybody to get involved, and thank you, Joanna, for the opportunity to say a few words. And you'll be as safe as a house. We'll operate within all the COVID regulations. You'll be fine. I'll bring you home. Have no fear. You'll be grand. And anybody who wants to come with us, we'll have a good night, and it's a good awareness building exercise. And look, at the reality is we can't deliver our services without money, and 50% of our money has to come from business and the community. So we'd love the involvement of Cove and the business community. We'd love Pfizer to be involved if that were a possibility. Whatever the chances are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dick, and a very worthwhile cause, absolutely. So looking forward to the event. So just before we finish up, I suppose you might have seen a poll that came up there earlier. I suppose we're going through a transition now regarding online or physical. So I think we're kind of gearing towards the more physical towards the end of the year. So if you could just put on the chat there what you would prefer. So because I suppose people like to kind of be in the office or actually go and have breakfast at 7:30 in the morning. So again, you can just see the poll has just come up there. So before we finish, just say like a massive thank you to all of you for attending this morning. To our fantastic guest speakers, Bernard and Claire, our sponsors, the Port of Cork, the hardworking team in the Chamber office. They really are Trojan workers, our council members, the exec team, and many thanks to Lee Gillen Events who managed the event and technology this morning. So we have our breakfast meetings now have commenced from this morning, I suppose. So our next one is on Thursday, the 14th of October, where we'll be featuring Mr. Cormac Cabourge, the head of the College of the National Maritime College of Ireland, which is an amazing facility that we have here in Cork Harbour, and they do great work, and I think a very exciting future ahead of them in light of all the renewable energy projects that are geared for Cork Harbour. We will also have a very informative event on PR, marketing and social media, which I think is very apt at the moment. Marketing communications is the new now, which will feature Judy Hopkins of Hopkins Communications, whom we all probably know and have been around for a very long time. We're hoping, we were meant to have the Spike Island social event this month. We did postpone it simply because of the guidelines. It was just too rigid really for us to get over there. So I think once restrictions are lifted on the 22nd of October, we'll then try and organise a date some Friday afternoon to go over to Spike Island and have a networking event. And again, we'll let you know about that. So that's it from us. A really good morning to you all and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joanna. Thanks, Claire. Thank you, Bernard.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.